So the class I am teaching is Philosophy 348. Otherwise I will kill myself. And it's deductive systems, which is a formal logic class. And so it involves translating English into symbols and then doing deduction. So it's a lot like a math class. And because of this, there are two issues I'm trying to address with this class. Because of this, it has good textbooks, which is good, which makes it good for a hybrid class. But the difficulties that I'm trying to address are two. One is that the students have very different capacities coming into the class, both sort of natural tendencies, like with math. Some people are just naturally good at it. Some people find it more difficult. We also have a large number of people who have a lot of math background and are looking for humanities credit. And this is a way to do that for something that they tend to find easy. And so we have a huge disparity in background of the students and just sort of natural, I don't know what natural means, but base ability to do this. Some students are very scared by it, like with math. So what ends up happening in face-to-face teaching of this class and this kind of class is that either some students get bored or some get lost, or both, right? And so that's one problem I'm trying to deal with. The second problem is that, and this is a problem in all classes, but because it's a hybrid, it makes it particularly acute because the students are going to have to do the work on their own. And that will require their doing the reading before they come to class, because we're going to have very little class time to go through this. And it's the kind of thing like math where you really have to practice on your own. It's not something you can just, watch and then see and then suddenly sit down at a test and take it. And so the idea, what I want to do is try to use the class time not to lecture to them about the materials, but to help them, once they've honed in on any issues they have, to answer their questions and help them with problems that they have. So the activities that I've developed for this are two sorts. One is to develop study questions, and the formatting messed up on this, but this is the study questions I've done for one of the chapters where I lead them through the reading and tell them what pages they need to read, what exercises they need to do, because often they're exercises, what questions they need to be able to answer. So I do this, and this goes progressively through the reading. And then at the end of various sections, so after they do these two sections, there's a quiz set up for them. And then they can come back and do this section, and there's a separate quiz. And so the other activity is actually the quizzes, which I think I'm going to do adaptively release. I'm not sure how much difference that will make, but I'll give it a shot. And the idea is to have the students complete all of this before they come to the class in which the material is discussed. So the main goal of the quizzes is not to test them on the material, but to force them to go through the material and learn it on their own. And I also give them explanations when they get either correct or incorrect, because I figure they could get the right answer and not know why they got it or for the wrong reasons. And so how I hope to address the problems is force them to do the reading and the exercises, help them prepare for the class, and hone in on what they know and what they don't understand, and they can do this in a self-paced way. So hopefully those who are quicker won't get so bored. Do you all want to see the quiz? It's a quiz. Shall I show you the quiz? Yeah, it's on the site. So let me just. Do we have it up? Yeah, there we go. I can only currently look at one of the quizzes because I did it adaptively release and I haven't taken them. So
if you were to just blow through and.
Yeah, I'll just put down answers. I'll just put all.
The next quiz show up?
Yeah, it doesn't. You don't have to it doesn't matter how you do. Yeah, the goal is not for them to. They don't have to get a certain amount right. I'm just putting answers here.
This will test your probability.
Yeah.
Arguments.
I'm not even reading the question, so. Okay, so.
Don't need to read the homework.
Yeah, okay, so then you can see some of the feedback I give. So I give feedback. Not all the questions I give feedback for, but a lot of the questions I give feedback for, whether the student's right or wrong. That gives you an idea. And then, will it go back? Yeah, see now quiz 2 is up. So I mean, because they don't have to, the idea is just to try to force them to do them in order, but I don't know if that really matters. So back to, okay. And the feedback I got is that the study guide was very helpful. The quizzes seemed appropriate. That the explanations of correct and incorrect answers were helpful. And that I ought to do the same for the other chapters, which I was planning to do anyway. And the one concern that was raised, it was actually raised by the student, is that, perhaps because I've made the quizzes currently untimed, because I understood from talking to Karen that there are difficulties with timing it, but maybe I could get some feedback about that. But the student's concern was that it would be too easy for the students to get by without doing the reading by doing, search for key terms. And that's not the goal. I wanted it to be untimed because I wouldn't care if they did the reading while they went through it, if that makes sense. And that's how they did it. But I don't want them to be able to get by without doing the reading, right? So I don't know how best to do this. And I've done all kinds of other things on Blackboard, but I've not done quizzes. So I don't know the logistics of difficulties with that. So I'd appreciate any feedback you have about that. And that is it. So I think I got under 5 minutes. Yeah, okay.
Yep. So,
I can talk fast.
Yep.
Are these quizzes worth any points?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
I mean, they're worth whatever. I mean, I haven't figured out how many quizzes there will be, but they will be worth something, because otherwise they won't care.
Right.
They either won't do them or they won't. Yeah. So.
How far in advance are the quizzes due before you meet in class?
It doesn't matter to me how far in advance they are. In fact, one of the other questions I have for you all is, I would like to do, because we have so few meeting times in the summer, is I would like them to actually do these first 2 quizzes before we even meet for the first time. And I don't know how successful that will be. And I don't know if you all have any experience doing that, because otherwise things will get backed up. So I don't think it's important that it happens long before, because there's nothing that I need to look at. I mean, I could look at, if I look quickly at what they're getting wrong, but.
Well, the reason I ask is they will leave it to the last minute, right before class meets.
Yeah.
And so if there's a sort of period of time where one is dependent on the other, the timing of the quiz, you could make it such a nuisance.
Yeah.
If they are trying to just not read the textbook, but open the quiz up and then do the open book and try to answer it that way.
Right.
If you don't particularly care whether or not they either read it in advance, then take the quiz, or they're doing the reading while they're taking the quiz, I think what you've got right now is fine.
Right.
When the student said that it would be too easy, was that based on the logistics of the quiz or the questions themselves and the difficulty of the questions?
I mean, for example, he's already taken the class, but there was apparently one question I asked that he didn't know the answer to.
That's good.
And yeah, so he had to look in the book, but he just said he just did a keyword. You can skim through things to look for keywords, and that's what he did. And his concern was that that the students would be able to do that too much rather than really read through the material.
So let me ask this. This is in part to have the students prepared for class.
That's right, and to figure out what they want to do in class. I mean, what we need to go over, what they don't understand. Yeah.
So how will you take advantage of a prepared class in your face-to-face instruction?
Well, I mean, the idea would be that they would be prepared, and so that we would, be able to answer questions they have and difficulties they have. Because otherwise, I'm teaching the material, then they're going home and practicing, and then we can't even address any issues they have until the next class, which is, it's not like a normal face-to-face where this 2 days or maybe 5 days. But, so that's the concern, is I would not be able to get through the material if they don't know before they come to class, I don't understand this, could you explain this to me? Because I'm not going to have time to go through everything, because there's too much. There's just too much material to do, to lecture about all of this stuff in the allotted face-to-face time.
Are you going to be lecturing?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lecture kind of, it's not a discussion kind of class. So it is, I mean, it's that kind of class. It's sort of like a math class. I mean, where lecture and working through problems with them. So it's just like going through a math problem. I don't understand the answer to this math problem, you know, how do I do it? And that's what, you know, a lot of class time is taken up with.
Are you keeping all your face-to-face classes, or is this going to take some of them away?
What do you mean?
Is this on top of your face-to-face, or you're going to have like online on Tuesday and in class on Thursday?
Yeah, so it's set up to do 1 day a week, face-to-face. Yeah.
Which is more important for them to do, the study questions or the quizzes?
It really, you know, it really doesn't matter. I have the study questions set up to lead them through the reading.
It seemed like if there were ways that you could somehow enforce the questions, it seemed more like that was wrestling with the content, and
Yeah.
the quiz, I don't know, because there's just such a brief glance at that, address those as much.
Yeah, it's, I mean, I could have them turn in homework for all of that. My selfish concern about this is it would be an enormous amount of grading, especially when we get to proofs. I mean, these things are easy, and they will be turning in homework. I will have them turn in homework when they get to proofs, but if I did it for every practice problem they had,
For some of those questions, it seemed more open-ended. It seems they could be discussions. That you
no.
could, no?
None of them are.
Okay.
They're all right or wrong. Yeah, they're all.
They didn't pass them to someone on the left, you know, and that, you know, someone else, you know, checks over, and that way you're not grading it.
They could do that, and you know, I've thought of doing that with the proofs, and that might be a way to alleviate some of this. I don't know. I mean, at least for these kinds of questions that I ask in this, I mean, this is the easiest chapter, so it's hard to say. Maybe that's something to think about for the later chapters. So I'll keep that in mind. This stuff, if they can't do this on their own, they really shouldn't be in this class. I could say something stronger.
This seems like material where later stuff builds on earlier stuff.
Absolutely.
And so I'm kind of puzzled why you're not using adaptive release, setting
I
it
am.
up such that basically they have to not just do it, but show a mastery of earlier stuff before moving on to later stuff.
Well, because if I thought of doing that where they have to get a certain number right.
Or they're at least identifying certain key things or abilities that they have to have mastered before moving on.
Right.
And using adaptive release to identify that they've done that.
Right, so I have thought of doing that where they have to get a certain % right on the quiz or something. My concern with that, especially for some of the quizzes, these quizzes, is they'll just keep trying until they get them right, because they're not the kind, maybe when I mean, it's something I might think about more when we get to proofs, because I could just give them other proofs, and this, being able to do this proof might or might not help you be able to do this one, right? But for these, it's just, I'm just going to keep guessing until I get it right. And that was my concern here with doing that. I thought about doing that.
Yeah, I think this really starts coming down to what you're wanting to accomplish with these quizzes.
Yeah.
If it really is sort of prep for class, that's one thing. If it's building, you know,
Yeah.
concepts, I mean, you could make this high stakes and say it's one time only. You can limit how many times they can take it.
And that is how it is currently.
You can say it's a certain window of time. I get a little nervous when people try to create a sort of airtight testing environment online,
Right.
because as far as I can tell, it can't be done.
Airtight, you mean?
Where you can absolutely assure that it's not open book.
Oh, yeah, I don't.
You know, if you don't care about that, that's one thing, but
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that you're using the quizzes. I guess I'm still sort of struggling, what's this getting for you? what is this doing for you that you don't do right now? You know, how will it help you?
Well, my hope is it'll force the students to do the reading and understand the material before they come to class.
It'll force them to take the quiz.
That's right. And if it affects their grade, I'm hoping, I shouldn't say force, encourage them to do it before class and actually do it with the idea that it's going to affect their grade.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's my goal. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
No,
I
I
feedback about that.
I think I love that you're doing adaptive release, but
Right.
adaptive release, the whole idea is that it helps ensure one condition before you go to the
Right.
next condition. That might be their own preparation, it might be now they're prepared for a discussion in class, or that they're actually bringing problems. What if they don't bring problems? What if they've answered everything that they need to know? I don't know. I mean, this is where it's worth trying it out and see what happens.
Well, if
But-
they really understand the material before we come to class, I mean, what it would do would allow me to discuss the material that would go forward, but that would be great. I mean, to be quite honest, you could probably read through the textbook. I shouldn't say this, but you might be able to read through the textbook and learn it on your own. It's not the kind of thing, it's like math. I mean, you know, there are people who need extra help. I'm not saying that, but there are plenty of people who you can go to a textbook and learn the material because the textbooks are set up for that. And I mean, that's one of the good things about turning, I think, this class into a hybrid is actually there are textbooks where, you know, you could really, so if that happens, great.
So
but yeah, I mean, I do. I
if
don't know.
the student does all those study questions that you lined up for the
Yeah.
chapter, should they then be able to do fine on the quiz?
Absolutely.
So, you know,
Not, I mean, not necessarily get 100%, but they would be able to do.
so one tactic that you can use,
Yeah.
just because they turn something in doesn't mean you have to grade it. So you could
That's
actually
true.
have them turn in answers to the review questions and no quiz until submission of that.
Okay,
You don't
yeah.
have to go through and grade all those things, but they've done it,
It's a good
and
idea.
you don't tell
That's
them
true.
that they're gonna do it, right? Or that you're
Right,
they just know they have to do it to get quiz and quiz counts.
right.
So you've duped them into actually doing everything. And the other thing about the
Yeah,
quiz,
yeah, okay, good.
so you don't necessarily have to make the quiz a timed block of, you only have an hour to do it.
Okay,
But you could kind of do sort of, I think what John might have been suggesting, in making the quiz, so you have class on a Tuesday, and you want them to do this reading and blah, 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 and then you want them to do something in time so that they'll be prepared for the following Tuesday class.
right.
Maybe you have the quiz available on some window of opportunity on Sunday for
Right.
12 hours.
Right.
So it's only available then. You don't have the hour time constraint.
Okay,
If they only got a one-shot deal, or not, is the case, you know, whatever. But they could
Okay.
get in and out as many times as they wanted over
Right.
that 12 hours, but it's
Right.
still not 2 seconds before the class,
Right.
Tuesday morning.
Right.
So you're forcing them to pace
Right.
themselves somehow?
right, and also if I have more than, because what I've tried to do is create multiple quizzes for the, you know, so it's not too much, sort of like a smaller tasks. So maybe what I could do in this slide is have the due date for the quizzes graduated over the course of the week so that they're not,
And you could
Yes.
have it,
even if the
Yes.
last one's
Yes.
closer to the class, the other
Yes.
ones
and you
are,
could have it staggered with
that's
the-
right.
You know, it's
Right.
to such a point where they have to read, they have to actually
Okay.
do the review questions and get it in time so that they'll have that 12-hour window of opportunity to take quiz one
Yeah,
in order to, you know, gain access. It's like jumping gates.
Right.
Hoops or something.
right,
But
Yeah.
they're probably out of time.
okay.
Good job.